The alarm bells rang loud across the communication station on Thessera Prime. Kira ran through the metal hallways, her blue skin pale with fear. She was the top ambassador of the Volani Republic, but today she felt helpless. The peaceful world, that had known only harmony for 1,000 years, was about to face its darkest hour. The Volani people were gentle creatures. They stood tall like humans, but had soft blue skin and large eyes that showed only kindness. Their world was beautiful, with crystal cities that caught sunlight and turned it into rainbows. They had never known war. They had never needed to know war, but war was coming for them. In the main communication room, dozens of Volani workers sat at their stations. Their faces showed the same fear that Kira felt. On the large screens around the room, red dots moved across a star map. Each red dot was a Kreth warship. There were hundreds of them, moving toward Volani space like a plague of death. "How long do we have?" Kira asked the lead technician. 6 days, maybe 7, came the quiet answer. "They will reach our outer colonies first. Then they will come here." Kira closed her eyes. The Kreth Imperium was known across the galaxy as the most brutal empire that ever existed. They came from a world of fire and poison, where only the strongest and most cruel could survive. They were tall, covered in dark scales, with teeth like knives and claws that could tear through metal. They did not just conquer worlds. They consumed them. They turned entire planets into ash and moved on to find more victims. The worst part was that the Kreth enjoyed it. They broadcast the screams of their victims across space. They wanted other worlds to hear what was coming for them. Fear was their weapon, and they used it well. "Have any of the other republics answered our calls for help?" Kira asked. The technician shook his head. "The Zephyrian Council sent words of sympathy but said they cannot risk their own people. The Altair Federation offered to take some refugees but will not fight. The others have not even answered." Kira felt her heart sink. She understood why the other peaceful species would not help. The Kreth had destroyed 3 major civilizations in the past 50 years. Anyone who fought them died. The smart choice was to hide and hope the Kreth would not notice you, but the Volani could not hide. They were too close to Kreth space. They had been noticed. "Prepare the emergency broadcast," Kira said. "Send it to every star system in the galaxy. Use all frequencies." "Ambassador, we have already sent distress calls to every known civilization. No one will help us." "Then we will ask everyone," Kira said firmly. "Even the unknown ones. Even the species we have never met. Someone, somewhere, might have the courage to stand against evil." The technician nodded and began working. Within an hour, they had prepared the most powerful broadcast signal their technology could create. It would reach every corner of the galaxy. The message was simple, but desperate. Kira stood before the main camera. She thought of her children, safe, in the crystal cities below. She thought of all the innocent people who would die if no one came to help them. She began to speak. "This is Ambassador Kira of the Volani Republic. We are a peaceful people who have never harmed anyone. Our worlds are beautiful and our people are kind. We seek only to live in harmony with all life. But we are about to die." She paused, trying to keep her voice steady. "The Kreth Imperium comes for us. In 6 days they will reach our space. We cannot fight them. We do not know how to fight. We have tried to find help, but the galaxy is too afraid to stand against the Kreth." Kira looked directly into the camera. "Somewhere out there, someone might be listening. Someone might care. We offer everything we have to anyone who will defend innocent life. Our crystalline energy cores are worth entire star systems. Our technology could make any civilization rich beyond measure, but we do not ask for help because of what we can give. We ask because it is right." The broadcast continued for 10 minutes. Kira explained what the Kreth would do to her people. She showed images of other worlds the Kreth had destroyed. She begged anyone listening to remember that good people sometimes needed protection from evil ones. When the broadcast ended, Kira sat down heavily in her chair. They had done everything they could. Now they could only wait. The message traveled across space at the speed of light, reaching thousands of worlds. Most who received it deleted it quickly. They did not want to think about the Volani or the Kreth. They wanted to stay safe and hidden. But on a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy, someone was listening. Deho had worked the night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station for 3 years. It was usually boring work. Most alien signals were just background noise or automated beacons, but tonight was different. The computer made a soft chime as it detected the Volani broadcast. Deho leaned forward in his chair, adjusting his headphones. The translation software worked quickly, turning the alien words into Korean. As he listened to Kira's desperate plea, Deho felt something stir in his chest. These Volani people sounded like the kind of neighbors anyone would want. Peaceful, kind, and now facing death because of it. This is horrible, he whispered to himself. Deho had studied the reports about the Kreth Imperium. Earth's intelligence services knew about most major galactic powers, even if humanity had not made contact with them yet. The Kreth were exactly what Ambassador Kira described, monsters who destroyed worlds for fun. But what caught Deho's attention most was something the Volani did not know. According to the star charts, Earth was listed in Kreth databases as insignificant backwater, population, weak omnivores, threat level, 0. The Kreth had never met humans. They thought Earth was just another helpless world full of creatures like the Volani. Deho smiled grimly as he reached for his communication panel. The Kreth were about to learn something new about the galaxy. They were about to learn that not all planets were helpless. Some planets grew predators who protected others instead of hunting them. He opened a priority channel to Terran Defense Command. Admiral Minho would want to hear this immediately. 2 hours later, Admiral Minho stood in the main briefing room of Terran Defense Headquarters. Around the table sat the top military leaders of Earth. The Volani broadcast played on the main screen, and every face in the room showed the same expression, controlled anger. "How many ships do the Kreth have?" asked General Park. "Intelligence estimates about 3,000 warships total," replied Colonel Kim. "But they usually attack with smaller fleets, maybe 400 or 500 ships for a target like the Volani. And the Volani defenses? Minimal. They have some defensive satellites and patrol ships, but nothing designed for real war. They are exactly what they claim to be, a peaceful people who never learned to fight." Admiral Minho studied the star charts. The Volani Republic was far from Earth, but not impossibly far. A human fleet could reach them in time if they left immediately. "What do we know about these Kreth?" he asked. "They are big, strong, and vicious," said Intelligence Chief Dr. Lee. "Their technology is advanced but not elegant. They build ships for intimidation rather than efficiency. They rely on fear and overwhelming force rather than tactics. Weaknesses? They have never fought an enemy that fought back effectively. Every species they have conquered either surrendered quickly or was too weak to matter. They expect their enemies to break and run." Admiral Minho nodded slowly. He thought about humanity's history. Humans had spent thousands of years learning to fight each other. They had turned warfare into an art form. They understood tactics, strategy, and logistics in ways that most peaceful species could not imagine. But more importantly, humans had something the Kreth did not understand. Humans fought hardest when they were protecting others. A human defending innocent people was the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. "Recommendations?" Minho asked. "We mobilize everything," said Fleet Admiral Cho. "Every ship, every Marine, every pilot who can fly. We go in force and we end this quickly." "The politicians will want to debate this," warned General Park. Admiral Minho smiled coldly. "Then we will not tell them until we are already gone. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the simple thing to do. Innocent people are about to die. We stop that from happening." Within 6 hours, emergency orders went out to every human military base in the solar system. The largest war fleet in human history began to assemble. Ships that had been in maintenance were rushed back to service. Reserves were called up. Volunteers lined up at recruiting stations. The message spread through human space. Peaceful aliens needed help, and monsters were coming for them. For humans, that was all they needed to know. As the great ships began moving toward the jump points, Admiral Minho looked out at the growing fleet. The Kreth thought they were dealing with another helpless species. They were about to learn that some species became more dangerous when defending others. The humans were coming, and they were coming in force. The stars had never seen anything like it. Across human space, warships moved like schools of metal fish, all swimming toward the same destination. The largest military mobilization in human history was happening, and it was happening fast. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the flagship Sol's Hammer, watching the fleet assemble through the massive viewports. The ship was 2 kilometers long and packed with enough weapons to level a continent. But it was just one of 847 ships that would make the journey to Vallani space. "Final count, Admiral," reported his aide. 847 warships, 2.3 million personnel, full ammunition loads and supplies for 6 months of operations. Minho nodded. It was more firepower than humanity had ever assembled in one place. More than they had used in the Martian Independence War or the Belt Rebellion. This fleet could conquer half the galaxy if it wanted to, but conquest was not why they were here. "Sir, we are receiving final reports from the ship commanders," said Communications Officer Yoon. "Put them through." One by one, the voices of human captains and colonels came through the speakers. Captain Jiho of the destroyer Incheon's Fury reported his strike squadron ready for immediate deployment. Colonel Sumi confirmed that her 1st Orbital Assault Division was loaded and prepared for combat operations. Fighter Wing Commander Hyon announced that his pilots were eager to test their new stealth fighters against alien technology. Each report was the same. Human warriors, ready to fight for people they had never met, asking for nothing in return except the chance to do what was right. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Yoon. "Then we jump in 30 minutes," Minho replied. "Send word to all commands. We are going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens innocent people in human space." "Sir, the Vallani Republic is not in human space," pointed out his tactical officer. Admiral Minho smiled grimly. "It is now." As the human fleet prepared for its jump to hyperspace, strange conversations were happening on ships throughout the formation. Dr. Nara, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, was trying to learn everything she could about both the Vallani and the Kreth. She sat in her laboratory aboard the Sol's Hammer, surrounded by alien cultural files and biological data. What she was learning fascinated her. The Vallani were almost perfect pacifists. Their world had no predators larger than a house cat. They had evolved to solve problems through cooperation and sharing resources. War was not just foreign to them, it was literally unthinkable. They could not understand why anyone would want to hurt another living being. The Kreth were the opposite. They came from a nightmare world where everything tried to kill everything else. Volcanic activity made most of their planet uninhabitable. Toxic storms could strip flesh from bone. The creatures that survived on Kreth Prime were the largest, strongest and most vicious predators their world could produce. "No wonder they cannot understand each other," Dr. Nara said to herself. "The Vallani cannot imagine wanting to hurt others. The Kreth cannot imagine not wanting to hurt others." But what interested her most was how both species viewed humans. The Vallani databases described Earth as a mysterious world of unknown potential. They had detected human radio signals but had not made contact. They knew humans existed but knew almost nothing about human nature. The Kreth databases were more detailed but completely wrong. They listed humans as weak omnivores from a low-gravity world. They assumed that because Earth was peaceful looking from space, its inhabitants must be weak and helpless. Dr. Nara laughed. Both species were about to learn something new about humanity. The Vallani would discover that predators could be protectors. The Kreth would discover that some predators hunted other predators. In the ship's training bays, human soldiers prepared for combat against an unknown enemy. Colonel Sumi walked through the Marine barracks, watching her troops check their equipment. These were hardened veterans of a dozen conflicts, but they had never fought aliens before. "What do we know about Kreth biology, Colonel?" asked Sergeant Wan. "They are big, strong, and fast," Sumi replied, "but they have the same basic layout as most humanoid species. Head, torso, limbs. Vital organs in roughly the same places. Our weapons will work on them. Are they tougher than humans? Probably. But tough is not the same as smart. Intelligence reports say they rely on intimidation and brute force. They are not used to enemies who fight back effectively. Private Keong raised her hand. Colonel, why are we doing this? I mean, these Villani people never did anything for us. We do not even know them. Colonel Sumi stopped walking and looked at her Marines. She saw the question in all their faces. These were professional soldiers, but they were also human beings. They needed to understand why they were risking their lives for strangers. Because it is right, she said simply. Because innocent people are about to die and we have the power to stop it. Because if we do not stand up to bullies, who will? She paused, thinking of her own children back on Earth. And because someday, it might be our families who need help. Someday, we might be the ones sending desperate messages into space, hoping someone will care enough to answer. The Marines nodded. They understood now. This was not about politics or territory or resources. This was about the kind of galaxy they wanted to live in. Meanwhile, in the fighter bays, Commander Hyun was briefing his pilots on their new stealth fighters. The Ghost of Busan was the most advanced fighter humanity had ever built, incorporating technology that had been developed in secret for the past 5 years. These ships are invisible to most sensors, Hyun explained. The Kreth will not see you coming until you are already shooting. But remember, we are not here to show off our technology. We are here to protect people who cannot protect themselves. Lieutenant, Junho raised his hand. Sir, what if the Kreth have weapons we have never seen before? Then we adapt, Eon replied. That is what humans do. We learn, we adapt, and we overcome. The Kreth think they are the strongest predators in the galaxy. They are about to learn that humans are not just predators. We are problem solvers. As the final minutes before jump counted down, Admiral Minho received one last transmission from Earth. It was a message from the President of the Terran Federation. Admiral, I want you to know that you have the full support of the human people in this mission. We did not ask for permission because we did not need it. Protecting innocent life is not a political decision. It is a human decision. Bring our people home safely and show the galaxy who we are. Minho smiled as the transmission ended. He opened a fleet-wide channel so that every human in the task force could hear him. Attention all ships and personnel. In 60 seconds, we will jump to hyperspace. We are going to a place where good people are about to die simply because they are good. We are going to stop that from happening. He paused, looking out at the stars. The species we are going to help do not know us. They do not know what humans are capable of. They think we are just another weak civilization that will not risk itself for others. The species we are going to fight thinks the same thing. They are both wrong. The countdown reached 10 seconds. We are human beings. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand up to bullies. We answer the call when innocent people cry for help. Today, the galaxy learns what that means. The countdown reached 0. 847 human warships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying the hopes and fury of an entire species. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet orbit around the sun, looking peaceful and harmless to anyone who might be watching. But appearances could be deceiving. Earth was not a peaceful world. It was a world that had learned to be peaceful through 10,000 years of warfare. It was a world that had produced predators who chose to be protectors. The Kreth Imperium was about to meet those protectors. In hyperspace, the human fleet raced toward its destination. In the command centers and ready rooms, humans studied everything. They could learn about their enemies. They analyzed Kreth ship designs, studied their battle tactics, and planned for every possible scenario. But most importantly, they reminded themselves why they were making this journey. Somewhere ahead of them, innocent people were waiting to die. Somewhere ahead of them, monsters were coming to destroy everything beautiful and good. That would not happen. Not while humans drew breath. The Villani had sent their message to the galaxy, hoping someone would care enough to help. They were about to discover that someone did care. They were about to discover that on a small blue world in a quiet corner of space, An entire species had heard their cry and decided to answer. The humans were coming, and they were bringing everything they had. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Villani territory like a swarm of angry metal wasps. 847 ships materialized in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and their sensors scanning for threats. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the Soul's Hammer, watching the tactical displays update with information about the local space. What he saw made his jaw tighten with anger. 3 Villani colonies were already under attack. The mining world of Thesara 7th was burning. Escape pods drifted in space around the industrial stations, carrying refugees who had nowhere to go. And moving between them like sharks were the ships of the Kreth raiders. "Sir, we are detecting 43 Kreth vessels in the system," reported Lieutenant Commander Park. "They appear to be hunting the escape pods." Minho felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach. The Kreth were not just destroying military targets. They were chasing down civilians who had already surrendered. They were killing people for sport. "Captain Jiho, take your strike squadron and engage those raiders immediately," Minho ordered. "I want every civilian protected and every Kreth ship destroyed. No exceptions." "Yes, sir." Inchan's Fury squadron moving to attack position. "Captain." Jiho led his 12 destroyers through the asteroid belt that surrounded Thesara 7. The Kreth ships were massive, covered in metal spikes and painted with symbols that looked like screaming faces. They were designed to terrify their enemies, not to fight efficiently. "All ships, this is Jiho. We go in fast and hard. These monsters are hunting refugees. I want them stopped now." The human ships accelerated toward the Kreth raiders at speeds that should have been impossible for vessels their size. The Kreth had expected any response to be slow and cautious. They had not expected 12 destroyers to come screaming out of the asteroid field like missiles. The first Kreth ship never knew what hit it. Commander Hyon's stealth fighters had been moving ahead of the main force, invisible to Kreth sensors. The Ghost of Busan and its squadron mates appeared as if from nowhere, launching their weapons at point-blank range. The Kreth raider exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the asteroid field. "Contact! Contact!" screamed the Kreth communications officer on the lead ship. "Unknown vessels attacking from multiple vectors." Warlord Scath, commander of the raiding force, stared at his tactical display in confusion. The attacking ships were small compared to Kreth vessels, but they moved like living things. They dodged between asteroids, used the rocks for cover, and struck with precision that seemed impossible. "What species is this?" he demanded. "Unknown, Warlord. The ship designs do not match any in our databases. Then we will add them to our databases after we crush them. All ships, attack formation. Show these insects the power of the Kreth." But the Kreth attack formation was designed for intimidation, not efficiency. Their massive ships moved slowly, presenting easy targets for the fast human destroyers. Captain Jiho's squadron spread out through the asteroid field, turning the space around Thesara 7th into a deadly maze. "Focus fire on their weapon systems," Jiho ordered. "We disable them first, then we finish them." The human weapons were different from anything the Kreth had faced before. Instead of trying to overwhelm enemy shields with brute force, they found weak points and exploited them. Precision strikes. Took out weapon clusters, engine systems, and communication arrays. Within minutes, 3 more Kreth ships were drifting helplessly in space. But the worst shock for the Kreth came when they tried their favorite tactic. Warlord Scath opened a communication channel and began broadcasting the death screams of Villani civilians they had captured. It was a psychological weapon that had broken the will of dozens of species. The human response was not what he expected. "Did you hear that?" Lieutenant Yoon asked on the bridge of the Inchan's Fury. "I heard it," Captain Jiho replied, his voice deadly calm. "Change of orders. No more disabling shots. I want every one of these monsters dead." The intensity of the human attack suddenly doubled. Ships that had been fighting with professional efficiency now fought with controlled fury. The difference was terrifying to watch. "They are not breaking," Warlord Scath screamed into his communicator. "The death screams are making them fight harder." This was impossible. Every species the Kreth had encountered became demoralized when they heard the suffering of innocents. It was supposed to make enemies surrender or flee in terror. Instead, the humans were using their anger like a weapon. They channeled their rage into better tactics, more precise shooting, and more aggressive attacks. They were not losing control, they were gaining focus. One by one, the Kreth raiders began to die. The final phase of the battle came when Colonel Sumi led her Marines in the first boarding action against a Kreth command ship. The human assault shuttles attached to the enemy vessel like parasites, cutting through the hull with fusion torches. The Kreth crew prepared for battle. They were apex predators from a world where only the strongest survived. They had claws that could tear through metal and enough physical strength to break a human in half. But when the humans came through the breach, the Kreth discovered something that changed everything they thought they knew about warfare. The humans were not just skilled fighters. They were thinking fighters. Every move was planned, every attack was coordinated. They advanced through the ship like a machine designed specifically for killing Kreth. "Take cover," roared a Kreth warrior as human weapons fire filled the corridor. But there was no cover that could help them. The humans had studied the layout of Kreth ships during their journey. They knew where every corridor led, where every vital system was located, and how to disable the ship's defenses. More importantly, they knew exactly how to fight creatures like the Kreth. Sergeant Wan threw a stun grenade around a corner, then followed it with a burst of weapons fire that dropped 2 Kreth warriors before they could react. Private Kyung used her suit's strength enhancers to rip open a bulkhead, creating a new path through the ship that the Kreth had not expected. "How are they doing this?" gasped a dying Kreth officer. "We are stronger. We are larger." Colonel Sumi knelt beside the alien and spoke in perfect Kreth, translated by her suit's computer. "You are stronger individually, but we fight as one mind in many bodies. You cannot understand that because you only know how to dominate. We know how to cooperate." The Kreth officer's eyes widened in terror before the light went out of them. Within an hour, the entire raiding force had been destroyed. Not a single Kreth ship escaped. More importantly, every Villani refugee had been rescued and taken to safety. As the human fleet regrouped after the battle, emergency channels across Kreth space carried news of the defeat. For the first time in their history, a Kreth raiding force had been completely annihilated. Warlord Gask, Supreme Commander of the Kreth military, listened to the reports with growing disbelief. "Impossible. Our warriors are invincible. Our ships are the strongest in the galaxy." "The recordings do not lie, Warlord," replied his intelligence chief. "These humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. They use tactics we do not understand, and they become more dangerous when we try to break their spirit." Gask studied the tactical recordings of the battle. The human ships moved in perfect coordination. Their weapons never missed. Their fighters appeared and disappeared like ghosts, and their ground troops fought with a skill that seemed supernatural. "What do our databases say about this species?" "Very little, Warlord. They are listed as weak omnivores from a low-gravity world. Threat level 0. Gask crushed the data pad in his massive fist. "Update that assessment, and send word to all fleet commanders. These humans must be destroyed before they can interfere with our conquest." But even as Gask issued his orders, he felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, the supreme warlord of the Kreth Imperium was beginning to understand fear. Meanwhile, in Villani space, Ambassador Kira watched the tactical feeds with amazement. The mysterious humans had arrived exactly as they had promised. They had fought the Kreth and won, and they had done it while protecting every civilian in the battle zone. "Send a message to the human commander," she ordered. "Tell them that the Villani Republic is grateful beyond words." But when the message reached Admiral Minho, his response surprised everyone who heard it. "Tell the Villani ambassador that we are just getting started. We came here to end the threat to her people. That means we do not stop until the Kreth learn to leave innocent species alone." Dr. Nara, monitoring the communications between humans and Villani, made notes in her research journal. The cultural exchange was fascinating to watch. The Villani could not understand why the humans had risked their lives for strangers. The humans could not understand why the Villani thought it was strange. "It is what we do," Admiral Minho had explained simply. When someone needs help, we help them. Medical Officer Taewoo was treating Volani refugees in the fleet's hospital ships. The aliens were amazed by human gentleness. The same creatures who had just destroyed an entire Kreth fleet were now carefully tending to wounded civilians with infinite patience. "Your people are very strange," said one young Volani. "You fight like demons but heal like angels." Taewoo smiled as he checked the aliens' injuries. "We fight hard because we care. We care about people who cannot protect themselves." News of the Kreth defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light. On peaceful worlds, species that had lived in fear for decades began to whisper about the humans. On Kreth worlds, military commanders demanded answers about how 43 ships had been destroyed without taking a single enemy vessel with them. Warlord Gask stood in his command chamber, staring at the tactical recordings of the battle. He had watched them dozens of times, but they still made no sense. The human ships moved like they were alive. Their weapons never missed. Their fighters appeared from empty space and disappeared just as quickly. "Bring me every expert on human technology," he ordered his subordinates. "I want to know how they do this." But the Kreth had no experts on human technology. Earth had been watched from a distance for less than 50 years, and the Watchers had seen only civilian ships and peaceful cities. No one had imagined that the quiet planet could produce warriors like these. "Perhaps we should reconsider our attack on the Volani," suggested General Thax, the most cautious of Gask's advisors. "These humans are clearly more dangerous than we thought." Gask's eyes blazed with fury. "Are you suggesting that the mighty Kreth Imperium should run from a handful of ships from an unknown world? I am suggesting that we learn more about our enemy before we attack them again. The only thing I need to learn is how they die," Gask snarled. "Assemble the 7th Battle Fleet, 300 ships. We will crush these humans and show the galaxy that the Kreth are still the masters of space." What Warlord Gask did not know was that Admiral Minho had expected exactly this response. Human intelligence had studied Kreth psychology for months during the journey to Volani space. The Kreth always responded to defeat with overwhelming force. It was predictable. "They will come with everything they have," Minho told his senior officers during a strategy meeting. "They cannot accept that a species they consider inferior has beaten them. They will send their best ships and their best warriors." "How many ships are we facing, sir?" asked Captain Jiho. "Intelligence estimates 300 vessels, possibly more. They will outnumber us badly." "Then we retreat?" suggested Colonel Sumi. "No, we use their numbers against them. The Kreth think that more ships always means victory. We are going to teach them that tactics matter more than numbers." Admiral Minho activated the main display, showing a three-dimensional map of the local star systems. Red arrows showed the projected path of the Kreth fleet. Blue arrows showed his planned response. "We call it Operation Gauntlet. The Kreth fleet will chase us through 6 star systems. In each system they will face different challenges designed to exploit their weaknesses. By the time they reach the Sarah Prime, they will be confused, divided, and demoralized." "What weaknesses, sir?" asked Dr. Nara. "The Kreth rely on intimidation and brute force. They are not flexible tactically. When their standard attacks fail, they do not adapt well. They simply try the same attacks with more force." "Communications." Specialist Yuna raised her hand. "Sir, what if they learn from their mistakes?" Admiral Minho smiled grimly. "Then we make sure they do not survive long enough to use what they learn." The first phase of Operation Gauntlet began 3 days later when the Kreth fleet arrived at the edge of Volani space. Warlord Gask commanded from his flagship, the Doom of Worlds, a massive battleship that was larger than most human space stations. "Where are the humans?" he demanded as his sensors swept the system. "Unknown, Warlord. We detect no enemy ships. They run from us like cowards. Search every asteroid, every moon. Find them." But the humans were not hiding. They were watching. From the next system, using long-range sensors to track every Kreth ship. Communications specialist Yuna had cracked the Kreth military codes during the journey, giving the humans access to enemy communications. "They are splitting up to search for us," she reported to Admiral Minho. 12 groups of 25 ships, each. "Perfect. Signal Captain Jiho. Execute Phase 1. The first Kreth search group was investigating the outer asteroids when 12 human destroyers appeared behind them. The attack lasted exactly 4 minutes. When it was over, 25 Kreth ships were dead in space, and the human ships had vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Impossible, Gask screamed when he received the report. 25 ships do not just disappear. But they had. The humans had used the asteroid field to mask their approach, struck with overwhelming force at the weakest enemy group, then escaped before the Kreth could respond. All ships, reform into battle groups of 100 vessels each, Gask ordered. We will not be defeated by these tricks. But reforming the fleet took time, and Admiral Minho was not giving them time. The second attack came while the Kreth were still organizing. This time, Commander Hyun's stealth fighters hit the main fleet supply ships. The Ghost of Busan and its squadron mates materialized in the middle of the Kreth formation, destroyed 6 supply vessels, and vanished before the enemy weapons could lock onto them. "Sir, they are destroying our logistics ships," reported General Thax. "Without supplies, we cannot maintain a long campaign." "Then we end this quickly," Gask replied. "All ships, maximum speed to Thesara Prime. We will force them to fight us directly." This was exactly what Admiral Minho wanted. The Kreth fleet raced through space toward the Villani homeworld, but they were moving into a carefully prepared trap. The Battle of Thesara Prime began at dawn on the 4th day. The Kreth fleet, now reduced to 270 ships, dropped out of hyperspace to find the human fleet waiting for them in orbit around the beautiful blue world. But something was wrong with the tactical picture. The humans had only 800 ships, but they were arranged in a formation that made no sense. Small groups of vessels were scattered throughout the system, seemingly positioned at random. "They are fools," Gask laughed. "They have divided their forces. We will destroy them piece by piece." "Warlord, perhaps we should be cautious," suggested General Thax. "These humans have surprised us before." "Enough. All ships, attack formation. We end this now." The Kreth fleet charged toward the nearest group of human ships, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves flying into the most complex tactical trap ever conceived. Admiral Minho had positioned his ships to use Thesara Prime's gravity well as a weapon. As the Kreth fleet accelerated toward the planet, they were pulled into predictable orbital paths. The scattered human ships suddenly revealed themselves to be parts of a 3-dimensional maze designed to funnel the enemy into kill zones. "All ships execute Guardian Angel," Minho ordered. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship playing its part in a dance of destruction that seemed choreographed by the gods themselves. Pilot Junho led his squadron through the planet's atmosphere, providing close air support for evacuation operations while simultaneously engaging Kreth atmospheric fighters. The human pilots flew so close to the planetary surface that their ships were sometimes hidden by clouds, but they never lost track of their targets. Marine Sujin coordinated urban combat operations in the capital city, where Kreth ground forces had landed to take hostages. Her troops moved through the crystal buildings like ghosts, eliminating enemy soldiers without damaging the beautiful structures or harming civilians. "How are they doing this?" gasped a Kreth fighter pilot as human ships seemed to appear from inside the planet's atmosphere itself. The answer was simple but impossible for the Kreth to understand. The humans were not just fighting to win, they were fighting to save everyone. Every tactical decision was made with civilian protection as the primary goal. This actually made them more dangerous, not less. A human ship defending a hospital fought with the fury of a mother protecting her children. A Marine protecting evacuating families was more deadly than any weapon the Kreth had ever faced. "Sir, we are taking heavy casualties," General Thax reported to Warlord Gask. "Request permission to withdraw." "Never. We are Kreth. We do not retreat." But retreat was exactly what they should have done. The longer the battle continued, the more the humans learned about Kreth tactics and technology. Every exchange of fire taught them something new. Every minute made them more dangerous. Engineer So Yun, working frantically in the depths of the Soul's Hammer, had modified human weapons to be more effective against Kreth armor. The energy frequencies that had worked well against their ships in the first battle were now optimized to punch through even their heaviest defenses. Medical Officer Tae-woo treated wounded humans and Volani civilians with equal care, but what amazed the observers was how quickly he worked. Human medical technology, combined with their deep understanding of biology, allowed them to save lives that any other species would have written off as lost. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Kreth fleet had been completely destroyed. Only Warlord Gask's flagship remained, its engines dead and its weapons offline. Admiral Minho opened a communication channel to the crippled Kreth ship. When Gask's ugly face appeared on the screen, Minho spoke in perfect Kreth. "I am Admiral Minho of the Terran Defense Force. You are defeated. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated according to the laws of war." Gask stared at the human, Admiral with something approaching madness in his eyes. Impossible. The Supreme Council of the Kreth Imperium had never met in emergency session before. For 800 years, they had been the ones who caused emergencies for other species. Now they sat in their great hall of black stone, watching reports of their defeats play on screens around the chamber. 2 fleets destroyed, reported Intelligence Chief Vex. 1,012 ships lost. Minimal enemy casualties. The humans fight like nothing we have ever encountered. Supreme Warlord Throck, newly appointed after Gask's capture, slammed his clawed fist on the table. "They are just one species. We have conquered entire galaxies." "Yes, Warlord, but those galaxies were populated by prey species. These humans are different. They fight like predators but protect like prey. It is unnatural." Throck studied the tactical recordings for the 100th time. The human ships moved with impossible coordination. Their weapons never missed. Their tactics adapted faster than Kreth commanders could respond. But what truly disturbed him was something else entirely. In every battle, the humans had risked their own lives to protect civilians. They had turned potential victories into defeats because they would not accept innocent casualties. "They fight with one hand tied behind their backs," muttered General Korex. "If they cared only about winning, they would be even more dangerous." "Then we force them to care only about winning," Throck decided. "Assemble every ship in the Empire. We attack their homeworld directly. When they see their own families threatened, they will fight like normal predators." "Warlord, that will leave our own worlds defenseless. It will not matter. Once we destroy Earth, the human fleet will be stranded in our space. They will die far from home, and the galaxy will remember that the Kreth cannot be defeated." It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Over 2,000 Kreth warships carrying 3 billion soldiers began the journey toward the small blue world that had dared to challenge their empire. But Admiral Minho was not planning to defend Earth. He was planning something that would shock both empires and change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "Sir, our scouts confirm it," reported Intelligence Officer Kim. "The entire Kreth fleet is moving toward Earth. They have left their homeworld with minimal defenses." "Good," Minho replied. "Signal all ships. We jump to Malgoth Prime in 1 hour." The human fleet had grown since the battle at Thesara Prime. Volani engineers had installed their crystalline energy cores in human ships, making them faster and more powerful than ever before. Volani defensive shields had been adapted to human designs. The alliance between the two species was producing technology that neither could have created alone. Dr. Nara stood in her laboratory, putting the finishing touches on the most important project of her career. Working with Volani linguists, she had created a perfect translation of human concepts into the Kreth language. For the first time in history, the Kreth would hear exactly what humans thought of them. "Are you sure about this, Doctor?" asked Admiral Minho as he reviewed her work. "Yes, sir. The Kreth understand only strength and dominance. We need to speak to them in terms they cannot misunderstand." "Then prepare the broadcast. It is time the galaxy heard from humanity." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Malgoth system like an avenging angel. The Kreth homeworld hung before them, a hellish ball of volcanic rock and toxic clouds that had produced the most vicious predators in the galaxy. Automated defense platforms immediately began firing, but the human ships moved through the defensive, fire like dancers avoiding raindrops. The crystalline shields provided by the Volani absorbed damage that would have destroyed older human vessels. "All ships begin the broadcast," Admiral Minho ordered. On every Kreth communication frequency, the human message began to play. Dr. Nara's voice, translated into perfect Kreth, echoed across the homeworld of the galaxy's most feared predators. "We are humans from the world called Earth. We came because you threatened innocence. We do not conquer. We do not destroy worlds for pleasure. We do not hunt the weak. But we do stop those who do." The message continued as the human fleet moved deeper into the Malgoth system. Commander Wu Jin led the assault on the orbital defense platforms, his ships striking with surgical precision. Tech specialist Da Hyun hacked into the planetary defense grid, turning the planet's own weapons against each other. "You call us weak because we protect others. You call us fools because we risk our lives for strangers. You do not understand that these things make us stronger, not weaker." The Kreth defenders fought desperately, but they were facing an enemy, unlike any they had encountered before. Human tactics had evolved through months of combat. Every lesson learned against Kreth forces had been incorporated into new battle plans. Fighter squadrons led by Commander Hyon swept through the system like ghosts, appearing from nowhere to destroy key targets before vanishing again. Marine. Assault teams under Colonel Sumi boarded and captured defensive stations with an efficiency that seemed supernatural. "We have come to your homeworld not to destroy it, but to end your ability to destroy others. Surrender now, and we will show you the mercy you have never shown to your victims." But the Kreth could not surrender. It was not in their nature. Every warrior on Malgoth Prime chose to fight to the death rather than accept defeat. The battle raged through the volcanic system for 12 hours. The turning point came when the human fleet reached Malgoth Prime itself. The planet's surface was covered with military installations, weapons factories, and training centers for Kreth warriors. It was the beating heart of the galaxy's most aggressive empire. Admiral Minho stood on his bridge looking down at the world that had spawned so much death and suffering. A single word from him, and the human fleet could turn the entire planet into a ball of molten rock, but he did not give that word. "All ships, precision strikes only, military targets, weapons factories, command centers. No civilian areas. We are not here to commit genocide." "Sir," asked Captain Jiho, "the Kreth would show us no such mercy." "I know," Minho replied. "That is what makes us different from them. The human attack was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Weapons that could have destroyed cities were used to target individual buildings. Ships that could have cracked continents focused their fire on military installations with surgical precision. The Kreth leadership, trapped in their command, bunkered deep beneath the planetary surface, watched their empire's power being systematically dismantled. But what shocked them most was that the humans could have killed every living thing on the planet and chose not to. "Why?" asked Supreme Warlord Throck as human forces breached the final defenses around his bunker. "Why do you not destroy us completely?" Admiral Minho, leading the final assault personally, stood before the defeated Kreth leader. Around them, human marines held their weapons ready but did not fire. "Because we are not you," Minho said simply. "We fight to protect life, not to destroy it. We came here to stop the Kreth Imperium from hurting innocent people. That mission is complete. You could rule the galaxy. Your weapons, your tactics, nothing could stop you. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to live in a galaxy where peaceful species do not have to fear predators like you." Throck stared at the human admiral with something approaching wonder. "I do not understand your species. That is why you lost." The surrender of the Kreth Imperium sent shockwaves through every civilization in the galaxy. The most aggressive, most feared empire in history had been defeated not by other conquerors but by protectors. In the weeks that followed, human diplomatic teams worked with Volani representatives to establish new galactic laws. Species that threatened innocent civilians would face intervention. Worlds that called for help would receive it. The age of unchecked aggression was over. The Kreth themselves were not destroyed or enslaved. Human occupation forces helped them establish new governments based on cooperation rather than domination. It would take generations, but perhaps even the Kreth could learn to live in peace. Ambassador Kira stood in the crystal gardens of Thesara Prime, watching human children play with young Villani in the afternoon sunshine. The two species were so different, yet they had found common ground in their shared values. "Your people saved us," she said to Dr. Nara, who was visiting to study the cultural exchange between their civilizations. "Your people gave us a reason to be proud of what we are," Nara replied. "You showed us that being protectors rather than conquerors is the right choice." High above them, the combined human-Villani fleet patrolled the system. Ships from both species worked together, sharing technology and tactics. The alliance that had been born in desperation was growing into something beautiful. But the real change was happening across the galaxy. On worlds where peaceful species had lived in constant fear, new hope was growing. The humans had proven that predators could be stopped. They had shown that protecting others was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. Admiral Minho received his final transmission of the day on the bridge of the Soul's Hammer. It was a distress call from the Andromeda Gateway, where a species of artists and philosophers was being enslaved by pirate fleets. "Sir, the message says they have heard about what we did for the Villani," reported communications specialist Yuna. "They are asking if we would help them too."